know me. My name is Dr. Philip Phillips, Associate Dean of the University Honors College, and today it's my pleasure to welcome back one of our honors resident faculty members. It's always good to see her on campus, but really she's never quite left because of what we're about to learn about today. So Dr. Shelley Thomas received her BA from Clemson University in French literature and later attended the Sorbonne. She received her MA from the University of South Carolina in French literature and later taught at the University of Grenoble in France. She earned her PhD in French literature from Purdue and then shortly thereafter began teaching at MTSU. She serves on the MTSU Fulbright Committee and is a member of both the graduate and honors faculty. And as I mentioned, she was for many years one of our honors resident faculty members, and some of you may remember her. Dr. Thomas is the founder and director of the Center for Accelerated Language Acquisition, or CALA, a center for the research and application of brain-based methods of learning that you'll learn about today. Housed in the MTSU Honors College, CALA provides language courses in multiple languages, really an impressive range of languages, I have to say, on a year-round basis using comprehensible input techniques. CALA has formed local and international partnerships for language classes and teacher training with the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute, the Webb School, the Confucius Institute, and the Isha Foundation, a nonprofit organization in southern India. And in 2021, Dr. Thomas retired from teaching, but she continues to offer professional development, conferences, and year-round telecourses through CALA. And she was gracious enough to accept our invitation to join us today. So please join me in welcoming someone who has been a very important part of our Honors College history, Dr. Shelley Thomas.
Thank you, Philip, for those kind words. And welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I could probably sum up the history of the CALA program by saying it's been one big yes after another from the deans and the staff of the Honors College to support exploration, innovation, fun, creativity, and really anything that would be helpful for student success. It's the same reaction I've seen the deans and staff have towards students and faculty in the honors program over the past 20 years that I've been here in this particular building. And it's a pleasure to be able to express my gratitude to them and to the staff through this presentation. So thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would say the motivation to start a center where languages could be learned quickly and painlessly in a brain-compatible way can be traced back to two events. The first event was my trip abroad to France to be a nanny after college. When I arrived in Paris, I got off the plane and I could not understand anything anybody was saying. They were, even though I majored in French, I had it in high school and college, people were speaking at the rate of machine guns, you know? I could not understand a thing, even though I'd had 7 years of French in high school and college. People were, I had read lots of French literature, but I couldn't understand or speak it quickly enough to keep up with the real French people. I learned later from my research on the brain that I was typical of people who had come through the system. The dropout rate in the United States is 95% before people reach the comfortable, proficient way of communicating with people in the country. But because I lived with a lovely couple, Eric et Noël de Grémont, in Paris, took care of their kids, went to the Sorbonne, I, of course, I fell in love with French, with the culture, became a teacher, but I couldn't help wondering if there was a better way to have prepared for that. When I was hired at MTSU, I didn't want my students to have the same painfully long experience I had, especially since now there's so many opportunities to go abroad, and you can do it like within your first year. So I kept my eye out for new methods that could maybe help bridge that gap between the classroom experience and the reality of living in the country. I finally found some good methods at a professional conference in 1998. This gentleman, Blaine Ray, a high school teacher in California, gave a demonstration of one of the methods in Spanish. At the time, it was a language I didn't understand. I'm a French teacher, and I hadn't studied Spanish. But he made the whole thing understandable with these funny, interesting stories. So afterwards, I chatted with him to find out more, and he told me he had been trained by these two people. Here's the gentleman who invented TPR, the first method, total physical response, in the 60s. He was a professor in the Department of Psychology at San Diego State, and he trained the woman you see next to him, Bertie Siegel, who went on to take TPR all over the world to over 32 countries. She's currently 93, and I still see her. I just saw her this past semester. She trained Blaine Ray, the gentleman I saw at the professional conference, and he went on to develop a second method called TPRS, which he just added storytelling to it, which was very important. So, as soon as I could, I took a type of sabbatical and got training from all three of these people about 20 years ago. And I added Dr. Eric Jensen to my trainers because he is the foremost teacher trainer on the brain research behind classroom methods. And I wanted to understand why these methods, TPR and TPRS, were so effective. Eric's research on bonding and yoga to prepare people to learn in a brain-compatible way is something that helped lower the affective filter that's usually up when we enter a classroom. We're usually afraid, but bonding, I mean, it's a no-brainer, you guys know this. Bonding, and when I do teacher training, he suggested yoga for lowering stress levels for the teachers. So I did that. I hired a yoga teacher, and this training led to my second big motivation to start an accelerated institute. After I got hired at MTSU, my son entered grade school at Reeves Rogers, which is, just down the street. And I found out from his teachers when he was, I don't know, like in third grade, that there was an influx of Hispanics to the Murfreesboro community. So, of course, there was a language barrier between the teachers and the students and the teachers and the families. And I just thought, man, I would be so scared and upset if my son and I couldn't understand the teachers. And I just thought, how cool would it be to bring Blaine in and have him teach maybe like 20 or 25 local K through 12 teachers Spanish for over a 5-day period, and let's just see how quickly they could learn. So once I was trained, I got in touch with John Paul Montgomery, who was the dean at the time, the honors dean, and I said, man, I just learned these really cool methods. Do you mind if I use my honors class to, work on them, practice, even create a new textbook, a brain-compatible textbook? And he was really encouraging. He was like on it immediately, as was Dr. Phil Mathis, who was the next dean, and as were Dr. Phillips and Dr. Weil. All three of them gave me so much encouragement. So in order to get enough money to bring Blaine in, I applied for and was awarded a special projects grant that provides seed money for faculty who want to start a program. With this seed money, I hired Blaine to come in for 5 days and teach Spanish to around 25 local K through 12 teachers. And after the class was over, on day 5, I had them all take the National Spanish exam, which is administered all over the United States to high school students. So it's an official, nationally scored exam. And the results were so great that I created CALA. And in addition to faculty, staff, and students here at MTSU, I wanted to open it up to the community. So I started having these classes here at the Honors College. And after CALA was in full swing, Dr. Phillips, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were passing by this room where Spanish was being taught, and you went inside and you observed it for a bit. Is that right?
I did.
And then you came into my office and you were so jazzed. You were like, wow, I really like what I saw. And you and I started talking, and then you and I and Dean Weil started talking about doing some sort of a partnership. Now, CALA at the time was already a 501c3 under the umbrella of MTSU, so it wasn't a financial partnership. It was more of a mutually beneficial, supportive type of partnership. It also gave CALA a consistent home for classes, and I want to give a big thanks to all the honors staff for being so kind and accommodating. They coordinated classes and schedules every year, and Marcia, whom you heard speak a couple of weeks ago, who was in charge of collage, she always took pictures for us every year. She took that picture of us outside the honors building. And another good example of how CALA and honors mutually support students is through the Fulbright Scholarship. Now, I was also on the Fulbright committee for several years and met many students who wanted to teach abroad. They wanted to teach English abroad. So, case in point, here's Adam Emerson, and yes, he's the one with the hamburger hat on his head. And I'm the one holding one of Angelina Jolie's imaginary adopted children in one of our crazy stories that we acted out. He wanted to go to Russia to teach English, so he took my French 5-day class with me as part of his training. And this was his comment that's recorded in one of the publications. That's so sweet. I acquired not only an extensive French vocabulary, but also an understanding of the way in which we acquire languages, best practices for ensuring my students' comprehension, and effective classroom management techniques. So, as more and more people found out about CALA in the community, organizations started contacting me, and Dr. Phillips has already mentioned one, but the biggest one and the first one was the Tennessee Center for Child Welfare. They had been awarded a huge grant with a consortium of other universities all over Tennessee, and the person in charge of that grant at MTSU saw some CALA classes on TV, and she came to me one day and she said, wow, we would really like our staff to learn Spanish quickly this way. Could we do that? I said, sure, bring them on. I said, how many you got? She said, 4,000. So we had a good chuckle. And she said, why don't we go to Nashville to the commissioner's office and ask her if she would create a full-time position, and that was Brian. So I had fully trained Brian Roberts. He was my Spanish teacher, and I more or less gave him away to the child welfare services for 6 years, between 2006 and 2012. He traveled the state of Tennessee teaching these 5-day language classes, and got very positive feedback, as you can see up there. And all this feedback is on my website. You can see that. And there are other partners over the years, like, as he mentioned, Tennessee Foreign Language Institute, Doors of Hope. We taught in prison. Brian taught some female women who were in the local prison. Free for Life, which is against sex trafficking, as you probably already know. Hispanic Family Center, Salvation Army, just to name a few. So of course this whole time I was gathering testing results from all the DCS classes. Although I always used the National Spanish Test that was administered all over the U.S., our CALA lessons were not created to teach with that test in mind. Number one, because I never even took it, because I wasn't a Spanish teacher. And number two, our lessons were created to be brain compatible. Yet, the results consistently showed over and over the people who were in DCS were like middle-aged people, and we only tested the ones that had never had Spanish before. They were showing 6 times the learning compared to people from high schools that were taking the national Spanish test all around the country. So you can imagine this was pretty shocking and notable. So a famous professor in the linguistics department at Southern California, who set forth several second language acquisition hypotheses back in the 80s, was Dr. Stephen Krashen. And one of his hypotheses said, there's no acquisition. No acquisition can take place without comprehensible input. And I can remember back in the 80s, I was in a PhD program for linguistics, and everybody was reading Krashen and saying, wow, I wonder what he means by that. You know, what kind of methods is he talking about? I mean, it's kind of not rocket science to say that things need to be understood to be acquired, but what does he mean? So the reality was, during the 80s, that's when TPR and TPRS were being worked on and created in K through 12, not at university level. So when I came out with this publication, he accepted it into his International Journal of Foreign Language Teaching. It was published in 2014, and because of the grant money ran out that I got for Blaine to teach the teachers, I had to start training my own teachers here. We have a master's in the art of teaching here, and I developed a graduate course, and I proceeded to, over the next 10 years, I trained 10 different students, and I'll go back and start with Rebecca, in their 10 different languages. So Rebecca, you know Laura Clifford, she spoke last week. Her daughter is now in her 6th year in the JET program in Japan. Rebecca started coming to the Language Institute when she was just in high school. And when she found out how easy it was, she took like many languages after that. I mean, kids would take these languages after 5 days and feel so jazzed. They would take like 3 in one summer. So she got really proficient in TPR and TPRS, and she was taking Japanese at the same time in the Department of World Languages and Literatures. So she became one of my 5-day language teachers in the summer, and she actually created her own little novel. Now, I know it's hard for you guys to believe this, but okay, 5 days. The first 3 days are going to be this technique I'm going to show in here. The next 2 days were funny stories, and the 5th day, they were all prepared to start a little novel, a little simplified novel. And she created one, and she used it as her honors thesis. And next to her is Jason, who was my Latin teacher. He was one of my master's students. He went on to become the chair of the Department of Foreign Languages, or World Languages at Webb, the private school Webb. He also created a little novel in Latin that people read on the 5th day. You've heard me talk about Brian. He's in the blue shirt. He became my associate director. And this is Helen Jizu, who was my Chinese teacher. And I've already mentioned that I hired a yoga teacher as part of the teacher training, so he's here too. Right next to him is Ahmed, who was my Arabic teacher. Ahmed taught Arabic for several years and then joined the master's program, and now he's finishing his PhD actually. Tanamai, whom you see below, is from southern India. She speaks Tamil, which, as you may know, is a language as ancient or more ancient than Sanskrit, but everybody's still speaking Tamil in southern India. Oh, as a matter of fact, we have our Japanese teachers from Tamil, and we've talked about the fact that we know that we've both been in Tamil Nadu. He went on to get his PhD too. I'm sorry, that was Ahmed. Tanmai actually got hired at a school in Uganda to teach English as a second language to African children, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. Dylan taught German for me, and he is also, he's already completed his PhD. And Paolo, you may know from Department of World Languages and Literatures. He wanted to teach for the 5-Day Language Institute, and he was one of my master's students. So he still teaches here, and he also did Italian for me. So all of these teachers incorporated culture, not only language, into the class, but they would show pictures and talk about their experience in the country they were representing. But Tanamahi went a step further, and she developed this dance class that's on our website too. I was just talking to somebody that wanted to take it. It's real gentle. I mean, I was a guinea pig for that too. It's very gentle and beautiful, and she did it in nature. And you can find that offered as a telecourse on the CALA site. She grew up doing classical Indian dance, so yeah, there you have it. The most recent language that I added was American Sign Language, and that's because the people in Nashville who conduct that school for the deaf heard about the Language Institute, and they were overwhelmed with clients. So they came down and they said, could you please train somebody in American Sign Language to help people in Murfreesboro so they don't have to travel so far to Nashville. So Haley got in touch with me. I trained her, and the minute she started teaching these classes before COVID took place, bam, they were full. So you'll see this advertised. Because of COVID, she turned it into a Zoom class, but it's a live Zoom class. And if you look on the feedback, people are just as happy as they were with it in person and here. And a lot of people say, I like this better because I could just do it in my bedroom. You know, stand up, sit down, you know, do all these actions and stuff like that. So that is the most recent course, and that makes about 10 or 11 languages. In addition to teaching graduate students in our master's program, of course I give in-service training to teachers all over the place, and this is just one example. Delia, because Central Magnet is right here, came to our Chinese class. An example of faculty, lots of faculty have taken it too. Dr. Ferrone had to take his students to South America for a biology situation project, and they all came to the class, and you can see these guys on the CALA site interviewed in a documentary that LRC made, Learning Resources Center. So if you're trying to furiously take notes, just relax, because the documentary will go over everything with you. And not only local teachers, but nationally, I got invited to here's the American Council for International Education in Washington, D.C. Every year, about 400 teachers of critical languages like Chinese and Arabic come through Washington, D.C. for a 10-day training program, and then they're spread around out across the United States. So the director of this program already knew about TPR. She was my age, she was Russian, and she was specifically looking, because not many people are trained in this, for somebody that gave workshops in TPR. And she found me, and anyway, that was a fantastic experience teaching Arabic and Chinese professors before they went out into American schools, K through 12. On the international circuit, this is where Tanamahi lives. I went there first to help with training language teachers there, and I trained her there. These are, when the people saw what was happening in the teacher training, they said, oh, okay, we're going to go right into the forest because we want to see if you can train these kids that many of them have never seen a white English-speaking person. We want to see if you can teach them English. So these are the beautiful kids that I taught in the forest, and there's a 10-minute video of me teaching these kids on my CALA website, so I won't spend any more time on that. I'll go right to Chinese. The Chinese people came over to MTSU 4 years in a row because their university provided funds for them. So they would come over to these 5-day classes. They were just adorable. After we bonded, so I would, teach them these methods through French or, whatever, to get them used to how it feels. And after 2 days of bonding, they were like on it. See how uninhibited they are? They were adorable, and they got into the Daily News Journal. I already talked about yoga. Here they are in a yoga class. Here we are on the Greenway. Brian and I are taking them for a walk, and then we went to our house and they fixed, homemade dumplings for us and stuff like that. Well, then they invited me to China after the 4 years, and here we are in the airport with 2 other professors in education. Peter Cunningham, if you remember, was the Dean of Education, I believe, and he was a card. He was so funny, and he started seeing all these signs in the airport that were incorrect English or incorrect translations, and I just added one because I thought it was funny. So that was China. When I arrived, it was Mother's Day. They're so adorable. It was Mother's Day, so they brought us flowers. That's Anne, the head of the program. And instead of teaching 20 people at a time when we were in China, we would have classes like this, like 200 people. 7 days, 200 people all day long. Yeah, it was fantastic. So next was Africa. Look at this beautiful school. This is where Tanamaye taught English. And she wanted me to come. This is their motto: we nurture wonderful human beings. She wanted me to come and train teachers. There were about 20 teachers there. She wanted to come train. But guess what happened in 2020? Our trip was canceled, and I thought, oh man, I'm not going to be able to go. I'm so bummed. But we were just learning Zoom, and they said, hey, could you just put your teacher workshop on Zoom? And I said, sure. So that's one of the teachers, one of the 20 teachers. This is their beautiful surrounding, adorable children. So I got to go to those 3 places. And all of this is on the CALA website. You can get the classes, you can get the documentary, you can get the dance class. If you go to All About Us, or the second one, About Us, you'll see this documentary, about 20 minutes that all are. So here I want to give you some encouraging news to help you realize it's never too late to learn a foreign language. I had to be the guinea pig and learn all 10 of these languages in order to train these people. I learned about 1 semester's worth of language per year for 10 years. And guys, that was between the ages of 50 and 60. And there's learning disabilities in my family, like big learning disabilities, like dyslexia. So I am typically a slow learner. But these, it's just like Simon said, body memory. You don't forget how to ride your bike, and it seems, easy to remember. So that's why this works. I was the guinea pig for these and learned all those 10 languages, or just a smidgen of it. So I'm saying to you, if I can do it, anybody can. And what I want to do right now is give you a demonstration of it. I've already heard from a few of you that you're up for it. You're going to volunteer for this. Whenever I give a demonstration, I try to mix up just the right cocktail for each different audience. For example, last week I gave a demo to the Rotary Club. And imagine all these men and women in business suits, middle-aged. I had them, do a little demonstration. I picked a French cocktail for them. But let's see about you guys. Let's see a show of hands for how many of you have taken Spanish before? Just raise your hand. Okay, good number. How many of you have taken French before? Okay, a little less. How many of you have taken Japanese before? 2 people, awesome. Okay, if you really want to feel the magic of your brain and what it's capable of, it's best to choose a language that you're least familiar with. So knowing that the majority of the people in here probably took Spanish or French, I mixed up a little Japanese cocktail for you. Okay, so are you guys game?
Hi.
Hi! Oh, yeah, okay. So if you can, 2 people, this won't be hard for you, just don't participate for a while, and just let everybody else, it won't be, you'll be amused, right, if nothing else. So what I do, in order to, you know, we would have gone through some bonding activities and stuff like that. But you guys have been in this class, you know everybody. I think you're cool with everything that's going to happen. But I do prepare the students with bonding activities, and I tell them about the brain so that they can be a collaborator with their brain in the learning process. So here's what I tell them. Today we'll be learning in a different way that will help you remember things more easily. I'll do an action and you'll do the same without repeating what I'm saying. You can do them right there at your chairs. It's like Simon says. As babies, we needed about a 2-year silent period where we internalized the music, grammar, and vocabulary of our native language that came from our parents or caregivers. As adults, we have big advantages over babies. The silent period won't be 2 years. It will just last 2 minutes or a few minutes. And why is that? Because we have a fully formed body, you know, instead of an advantage over babies, and we have a fully formed language in our head that runs out to this new pattern and brings it back and tries to find things that are familiar with it. So your brains are pattern seekers. Everybody's brain is a pattern seeker, and if it gets enough of the pattern, it will just absorb it naturally. So I want to give, of course, I have a little boo-boo there, but you know, that won't keep you from seeing the kids. The kids, you know, see how playful, right hemisphere, they're not trying to analyze grammar, they're uninhibited. So uninhibited, creative, role play, 5 senses, not analytical, before brain lateralization took place. And about age 11, brain lateralization took place and our focus went from right hemisphere to left hemisphere. And why? But for survival purposes. So we became more analytical, and it was, you know, a defense mechanism, and that's good. It should do that. But what I try to tell my students is just relax. Just put that on hold. Have some cognitive distance from that, and just remain in your playful child mode. And at the end, that's when I open it up, you know, for questions for grammar in the classroom. And that way, grammar becomes like an exciting object of curiosity. And it's like I put salt in students' mouths by helping them feel it with their whole body. And at the end, they are, you know, asking for answers to their questions that their brains have already formed. Okay. Ready? Let me get my chair here. So I alert you that, you know, Japanese is not my language. I just learned enough to give this demonstration. And I've given it in Arabic and other languages too. And what could possibly happen is I say the wrong thing. And if your brain picks up the pattern quickly and I say something wrong, you can raise your hand and say, and don't you guys raise your hand, because I want to see if they can do it. And I'm not tricking you on purpose, honestly. I don't want to do that. That's not one of my techniques. But if they don't get it, then yeah, do raise your hand. Let's see if I gave this in Arabic once to teachers, you know, K through 12 teachers in Franklin. Well, after a half hour, I was doing it in Arabic, and at the end of Arabic, verbs, there's a masculine indicator and a feminine indicator, and I forgot it, and one of the teachers raised her hand and said, "Didn't you forget that?" So I was very impressed. Okay, here are our words. Okay, so you understand what you're going to do. It's just like Simon says. You're going to do what I say as I do it. Okay, everybody with me? So, tatsu? Yeah, you don't say anything because this is silent period. Suwaru. Tatsu. Suwaru. Tatsu. Yeah, good. Aruku. Aruku. Hai. Aruku. Hai. Tatsu. Aruku. Hai. Aruku. Tatsu. Suwaru. Ooh, look at you guys doing it even before I do. 歩く。はい。座る。歩く。座る。立つ。歩く。ゆっくりと歩く。ゆっくりと歩く。はい。ゆっくりと歩く。歩く。立つ。ゆっくりと座る。Woo woo! I didn't even model it. Look what your brains are doing all by itself. ゆっくりと歩く。Yeah. ゆっくりと歩く。はい。座る。立つ。踊る。はい。踊る。Wait, who is this? Wait, remind me.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Travolta.
John Travolta, yeah. I'm just kidding. Or one guy back there said he would recognize Chubby Checkers, and I said, twist again. Odoru, odoru. Tatsu, aruku, yukkurito aruku. Tatsu, yukkurito odoru. Ooh, bravo. すごい。立つ。ゆっくりと座る。踊る。座る。歩く。座る。ゆっくりと歩く。ゆっくりと立つ。Ooh, I'm just gonna sit here and enjoy it. 歩く。踊る。ゆっくりと踊る。Ooh, yeah. 立つ。歩く。ゆっくりと歩く。立つ。ゆっくりと座る。Woo woo! You guys, awesome! すごい! すごい! Bravo! Point to the picture that you hear by raising the right arm or the left. So I'm going from your whole physical body to just part of it. Of course, the turtle walks slowly. Oh, I don't have a rocket there anymore, but the turtle walks slowly, so turtle will represent the adverb slowly. So if I said, yukkurito, everybody would go like that. Is that good? Okay. Odoru. Hai. Tatsu. Hai. Suwaru. Hai. Let me make sure everybody getting it. Okay. Odoru. Hai. Yukkurito. Hai. Suwaru. Hai. Tatsu. Hai. Tatsu. Hai. Aruku. Hai. Sugoi! Sugoi! So even if you see a different picture that's doing it, you're not, you're not tricked or anything like that. So that's good. We'll show a picture and pose a question about each picture, and you simply respond with. You simply respond with hai or ie. Okay, everybody good?
Hi.
Good one. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah. Suwaru. Hai. Ie. Hai. Suwaru. 歩く。はい。家。家。ゆっくりと。はい。立つ。はい。家。はい。立つ。Am I clear enough with everybody? ゆっくりと。はい。家。家。座る。はい。歩く。はい。家。はい。歩く。座る。はい。家。家。踊る。はい。立つ。はい。家。家。踊る。はい。踊る。歩く。はい。家。はい。Oh, guys. ゆっくりと歩く。はい。ゆっくりと歩く。まさに。すごい。すごい。Wow. So you're just going to do the same thing. So my volunteers coming up, I need 4 volunteers. You're just going to hold up the picture. It's going to be really easy.
Yes.
I was late, I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Yeah. Everybody can get a chance. After these 4, I'll ask 4 more, so you get a chance. It's cool and fun. Okay. So show us what you've got there, and keep it down at the chest level. And you might want to hold the sides of it so it doesn't wobble. So, for example, if I'm one of these guys and I say odoru, if the teacher says odoru, I simply go like that. That's it. That's it. You don't have to say anything. Is that okay?
Hi.
Hi. So we've got suwaru, yukkurito, tatsu, aruku. Everybody good? Okay, you guys just listen to me. And I might not look at you, so careful. Okay. Yukkurito. Hai. Aruku. Hai. Tatsu. Aruku. Aruku. Hai. Tatsu. Hai. Suwaru. Hai. Aruku. Hai. Suwaru. Aruku. Suwaru. Aruku. Yukkurito. Tatsu. Ooh, era class. Oh, I mean, oh, man. Okay, 4 more. Real quick. Good job, guys. Awesome. Yeah, I did try to. Okay, so that's So odoru, aruku, suwaru, yukkurito. So do you guys get what's happening here? I'm speeding up the language so that you're going to hear it at a native rate, minutes into your learning the language. Okay. Aruku, hai. Yukkurito, hai. Odoru, yukkurito, odoru, suwaru, yukkurito, aruku. What if I say yukkurito aruku? Wait, I mean. Okay, let me do one more. What about yukkurito odoru? Ooh, yukkurito tatsu. I mean, yukkurito suwaru. Hey, good boy. Awesome, guys. Hey, hey, hey. sugoi. I will give choices. You simply shout out the correct choice. So, for example, this is obviously suwaru. So I'm going to say, just like your mom used to say when you were a kid, you know, you couldn't even talk yet, but if she said cookie or banana, and you said cookie, I mean, you were capable of saying cookie. So I'm just going to give you a choice here. So what do you think, guys? Yukkurito, suwaru. Suwaru. Hai, suwaru. Odoru ka yukkurito. Yukkurito. Hai. Tatsu ka suwaru. Hai. Odoru ka yukkurito. Odoru. Suwaru ka aruku. Aruku. Hai. Aruku ka odoru. Odoru. Hai. Yukkurito odoru ka yukkurito tatsu. Hai. Suwaru ka aruku. Hai. Yukkurito. Oh, did I do something wrong? I thought I heard somebody. Yukkurito suwaru ka yukkurito odoru. Hai. Suwaru ka aruku. Oh, sugoi! Sugoi! So we just had our first conversation. So can you get from context what ka means? What? Awesome, guys. I will describe what is happening in each picture. You hold up the correct number of fingers to reflect the number of the picture without saying it. For example, so just make sure we know what's happening. The guy is sitting slowly. The girl is dancing slowly. But that's just walk. And then we have walk slowly, sit, stand slowly, stand slowly. So you see how that goes? Okay. So let's just do one. And the reason you're going to hold up fingers is because every brain is different, like a fingerprint, and people absorb at different rates. And in a room full of students, I know that if I have 50 students, I have 50 different absorption rates. So if the fast absorbers answer too quickly, the slow absorbers will feel like depressed. Yeah. But what you don't know is that absorption rate has nothing to do with your intelligence. It's just everybody's different, absorbing things at different times. So first we're going to use our fingers, okay? So if I say, for example, odoru, what are you going to hold up? And I'll verify and say 9, okay? What about aruku? Hai, 3. What about suwaru? Hai, 5. Yukkurito. 8. Good. Tatsu? 7. Good. Yukkurito tatsu. Yes. 6. Yukkurito odoru. Good. 2. Yukkurito tatsu. 6 again. Suwaru. Good. Yukkurito suwaru. Sugoi. Odoru. 9. Good job. Come go a little bit faster. Aruku. 3. Tatsu. 7. Yukkurito tatsu. Yeah, 6. Odoru. 9. Good job. Yukkurito suwaru. 1. Yukkurito odoru. 2. Suwaru. 5. Odoru. 9. Yukkurito tatsu. 6. Awesome, guys. Sugoi! Sugoi! Okay, I feel like you're getting a good pace. And when this happens in class, what I do is based on research that says if the class goes out with, if you are lectured to, you go out with just 5% of what the lecture was. if you, and of course it builds, if you have more experience in class, it builds to like 90%. But if you actually become the teacher of the subject that you just learned, then you go out with 95%. So I have a mini prof, and here's how it works. I will go back to this, and here's where we can shout stuff out, because I know you guys are pretty proficient now as far as hearing quickly. So just anybody in the room, not the two people that took Japanese, if you think you can just say the Japanese for one of these squares, can you raise your hand? Just raise your hand. Okay, Chicago,
Yes.
just say, she's going to say her word, and we're going to shout out the number. Yukurito odoru. Two. Everybody yell it. Two. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Now, you guys raise your hand. I'll call on you one at a time. You shout out your Japanese thing, so everybody can hear it. And then we'll shout out our number. So just raise your hand if you get one. In the back?
Yukarito tatsu.
6. Yes, back?
Suwaru.
5. Awesome. Next? Yes.
Yukarito.
8. Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
Odoru.
9. Yes.
Yukarito suaru.
1. Next. Did we get them all? Yes, sir.
3.
3. Oh, guys, I'm so proud of you. Sugoi. Sugoi. What did I do with my face? Oh, I did. You'll become the teacher in a few minutes. Is that not awesome? Sugoi. So these are the things that you learn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to show you something cool here. So in the 5-Day Language Institute, the first probably 3 days are just stuff like this. And I'm building up the vocabulary to create a goofy story. And you saw how goofy we dress up and stuff like that. And we act out and retell the goofy story in class. And then their homework is to go home and tell it to their roommate or their parents, or, I've gotten stuff from all over the world. Like one of my students was dating a French guy in Paris, and he wrote me an email saying, I heard Margie's story, it was awesome. So I just wanted to give you an example of some cool stuff I've had. So one of the first people that came back, they come back with a page of names that say, I heard so-and-so's story. So this one woman came in, middle-aged woman, she came in, and there's a prize for the most who signed. She had 27 signatures. And I said, Joan, where did you get all these people? And she said, well, I'm a Sunday school teacher. I just went in and told my story to my Sunday school class, and they all signed it. So stuff like that was really cool. And this was the coolest one. So I had this guy who was a soldier in Afghanistan, and when he came back, he decided to be a nurse. So he came to class, he was learning French this way, and one day he came in with this block of wood, and I said, dude, where's your paper with your signatures? And here's what it says. I told my story in French to my poker night guys last night. Sorry, but this was the only writing tablet we had. And then he signed his name, and here are the people's signatures. Is that not adorable? So, let me make sure okay, what did I do with this? Okay. I don't think I can do this with you yet. So I just want to stop here. Here's where I get with, because I think I want to leave 5 minutes. Is that right? I want to leave 5 minutes. We do eventually get to a written down thing, but what I want to show you is, at the end of the lesson, I have people have cognitive distance to what happened to them. So they think about, wow, how was I learning? What new thing did I learn? What did I notice about the language? I usually give minutes for this. People write it down. They share it with each other. Does anybody have anything that they just want to say off the top of their head? Like this. Anything you noticed about the new language? Or, yes, sir?
The adverb comes before the verb.
Good noticing. Yeah. Anything else? Maybe I didn't give you enough, but that's kind of the way. Oh, do you have any grammar questions or anything? I would have to give you more language in order for you guys to get that. but I want to be able to stop in time. And there's the website that you can get the documentary. Here's where you can sign up for classes. Oh, and since, okay, I have to tell you this, since COVID, a lot of our teachers have gone back to their country. They've gone on to get their PhDs. They've gotten married, had babies. But before COVID hit, LRC was able to record Spanish, French, Tamil, Chinese, and Zoom is live. So you can get those as telecourses. And that's where you can, and there's a dance class, and you can also get, there's something called stress management on there if you need to go to class. So let me see what I was doing.